happy birthday. I'm not sure whether you can see it on screen, but we even amended the slides for you today. So
I didn't. I was so busy letting people in for the waiting room. I almost missed that. Thank you.
I could see that you were busy. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the IOSH Chiltern virtual branch meeting. You'll notice the change in voice and face for today. Louise and I have swapped places. Louise has kindly offered to be the cyber bouncer. And I've stepped up a little bit to host today's meeting. So welcome to everybody. So for your added security, a couple of things I'd like to run through with you. We lock the meeting at around about 1:10, which means you won't be able to access the session after this time, particularly if your system drops out. You won't be able to get back in again. But the good news is we are recording today's session. But only the speaker and the slides are recorded and published on the website. So if you want to revisit or you get cut off halfway through today, we do have the occasional glitch. Hopefully it's not going to be our end, but if so, unfortunately you won't be able to get back in after 10 past. So if we do have any problems, please be patient with us. We'd like our session to be interactive, as we have done with all our previous sessions. I think this is session 16, I think, from memory. That's quite a lot. And we have people from all different parts of the world and the United Kingdom. So it'd be really nice if you could use the chat feature to introduce yourselves to the rest of us. And whilst you're doing that and putting your name in the chat box, I'd like to actually introduce you to the committee who are on screen at the moment. So if I could ask for the Chiltern IOSH committee to either wave or to use your hand signals, polite ones only please, so that the rest of our audience can see you. Obviously, and also to Brenton Phillips from IOSH, who's our regional manager, who's on the call today as well. So we do ask you to keep your microphones on mute during the session, but we might open that up later on during the questions. And our speaker today, Peter Bennett, has asked that we pose questions during the session, and then we'll come back to them at the end. So as is traditional with our virtual meetings, we'll have 15 to 20 minutes running through IOSH content, and then we'll introduce you to our speaker, and then there'll be the opportunity to be interactive. So you can of course use the raise hand feature at the end again if you wish, or the thumbs up if you wish. We'd like to encourage participation, and Louise has kindly offered to help with the hosting here. So if you have any particular questions where you wish to pose them direct to our speaker, then that feature will be open later on. So what I'd like to do is to just start off with a little bit of IOSH news. I'm just going to check with the committee just to make sure the screen's on full. Everybody can see everything. That's great. We've still got guests coming in, so I might repeat myself in a couple of minutes if that's okay. This is where Louise would say, we love Twitter. And I have to say that I'm useless on Twitter, but so you won't see much of me on Twitter, but we as a branch, and IOSH particularly, are very good on Twitter. So we like you to give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Carry on with the conversation perhaps after the event today, and let us know if you have any questions or anything you'd like to chat to us about. LinkedIn, which I'm a lot better at, but we also have a LinkedIn king in Luke on the committee who's taken on the mantle of looking after LinkedIn and some of the comms for the branch. But we do use LinkedIn for staying connected. So I suspect many of you today will have actually found the links and the information about us on LinkedIn. I think what's absolutely fantastic is in the last few weeks, we've had a massive increase in people joining us and befriending us, if that's the right phrase for LinkedIn. I'm sure it's just linked. And we've had, I think, about a 20% increase, of which half are the global community. So we've got people joining us from all over the world. So again, I'd like to extend a welcome to IOSH Chiltern branch to all our friends and guests from all over the world, effectively, which is rather nice. Now, you can have a look at our past events and go on the Chiltern web pages. And one of the events, the most recent one, which was last week's presentation on the menopause, will be on the web. It's actually was uploaded last week, I believe. So you can actually view it, watch the slide set or the video, or some of the Q&As. So I think if I could ask, I think somebody may have a microphone open, but if you can just double check for us, that would be great. So thank you very much. The session starts now and goes on till around about 2:30. We will finish dead on time because obviously people may have other calls to go to. And today, again, we're going to welcome Peter Bennet in just a moment, but I'll do a proper introduction in just a tick. On the 15th of July, we will have our next seminar, our next session, which is Stephen Haynes, Mates in Mind, which is on the subject of mental health. Our subjects have been extremely varied over the last few weeks, and we continue on that theme, so we try and make sure that we cover every aspect. The following week, and I won't talk too much about this because I'll be accused of self-publicity, is me doing a small talk on the subject of using Zoom to deliver safety learning. And I think we've given it an extended title of other platforms are available. So it's not just about Zoom. If you did attend the one earlier in the year, this is a follow-on. And it's not going into deep tech, but it will be covering some of the things we missed on the first session. I think it's fair to say that at this point, at the end of July, we will have a change. And that's a change to the way that we use Zoom. So something that's worth putting in your diaries is that at the end of July, we move on to a different format. It will still remain Zoom meetings, but it will require pre-registration. So for those of you that have been on the many, and I'm sure you have, many webinars that are around at the moment, you're used to pre-registration. The advantage, of course, is it gives you a diary date that will go straight into your diary automatically. So that's a new meeting ID for each event, and pre-registration will be needed. So the first time we then move to Fortnightly Presentations, which starts on the 12th of August. And this is a session that's being introduced and was suggested by one of our colleagues on the committee. And I think I'm correct in saying it's Tim and David that are delivering this. Louise, nod if I think I'm correct here. Great, okay. I should have checked first. But that will be an interesting session where you'll have the opportunity to talk about progressing through the varying membership grades. On the 26th of August, we will have an international speaker. Now, I believe we know who it is, but we haven't actually had it confirmed yet. So watch out for that. It's exciting. It will be an interesting topic, I'm sure. But as I say, we haven't yet released the name. On the 16th of September, another date for your diary. Not the first time that we've done a joint event. This is the second one. This will be, the first one was with the Welsh IOSH branch, but this time we are talking about joint wellness wellness, a joint session with the Yorkshire branch, where we're looking at inclusion, equality, diversity, sleep health, and the one that will make us smile, corporate psychopaths. Now, I know there are some people on our committee that will be able to explain that one far better than I can. So if you wish to ask them later on, I'm sure they'll be able to help you. So that's the first stage of the Chiltern meetings that are coming up over the next few days. Last time, this was a week ago, where we had an incredible response to a subject that was extremely interesting. Sarah Davis was talking menopause. The video of her presentation is now on the YouTube channel via the website, the IOSH website, and the LinkedIn stats, which we look at, which is the number of people that visit these pages, that went through the roof as well, which was fantastic. So it created an awful lot of interest and a lot of people talking about it. And I personally suspect that many OSH professionals, particularly the ones I spoke with, are probably putting this subject on their agenda and back into their policies as a result of a really interesting session with Sarah. I personally found the Q&As really, really engaging, and I thought some of the feedback, which hopefully we'll be able to share with you, was extremely, extremely good. Now, all of us receive the IOSH Connect news, so I'm going through something that many of you will have already seen, although I've included some of the information that we had released previously. So if you're like me and you get a million emails in your box and you don't get a chance to pick up on this one, we'll just run through this, which is released earlier in the week. So you will have seen some of this, no doubt. First of all, something that has been mentioned previously in our meetings is that the IOSH Chiltern Committee is open to new members. We're very keen to expand. That's something that Louise has been driving. I was, until recently, I think the newest member, and Luke, I think, has joined us, and Kurt as well, and a number of other people are joining the committee. But our meetings have a I would call it an informal meeting, perhaps every Friday, but it's at 1 o'clock. So if you want to talk to one of the committee about that, if you want to express an interest, we're obviously looking to expand the diversity of that committee. One of the things that many of us probably are attending is the weekly IOSH webinars, which are typically on Thursdays, although there have been some on other days. I think the next IOSH COVID-19 webinar, we're going to try and avoid saying that today, will be tomorrow, the 2nd of July, which is back in business. I thought I gave webinars long titles, but this one I think wins the award. I don't know how many of you, in fact, I'll ask a question because I've done too much talking so far. I don't know how many of you actually managed to attend the session yesterday on micro-learning. Perhaps a wave of a hand from the audience. How many of you were actually on the IOSH webinar yesterday, which was actually organised by a third-party provider, Intellex? Anybody jump on it? And if you didn't, I'm looking at the faces to see if anybody was there, but perhaps not. It doesn't, Alan was there, that's good. It doesn't cover many of the things that I'm covering at the end of the month, so just in case you thought it might be a duplication, it isn't. So if you want to have a look at the previous webinars by IOSH, you can of course go onto the links page, which is on the page that we'll publish on LinkedIn as well. We're not the only branch that's running virtual meetings, although I still think we've done more than most, but we're not the only ones, and there's some really good content that's being delivered currently. And you can go onto the membership networks page and you'll see a link of all of the events. I'm pleased to say there's not much duplication, which is quite good. We tend to talk, which is helpful. So you can actually go onto that page and double check. Something else we need to remind you about, and it's not too late, is that the council election ballots started on the 1st of July and they're open until the 7th of August. Have I got that right, Louise? I think I have.
Yeah, so it opened this morning, and we've had, which is kind of what I was expecting actually. I'm just looking it up now. I think there's 50 odd people have applied, which is a huge number. Really good. So that's a much bigger number than last time. So, you know, I would urge anybody to just go online, have a look at the profiles, and remember these people represent your views. So it'd be really great to get representatives. I don't know if there's anybody here who's actually, I'm just looking at the delegate list. I don't know if there's anyone who has applied for council. Dylan, have you? Oh, so Dylan's, do you want to just quickly unmute, Dylan? Do you want to say who you are?
Hi there, yeah, I'm Dylan Thompson. I'm the Communications Coordinator for the South Wales branch, and I am also, as Louise alluded to, one of your candidates for the IOSH council election this year.
Excellent. Well, you're very quiet, Dylan. So Dylan's comms coordinator in South Wales, and here is a living example of somebody who's going to be on that list. So, you know, do go on. I always spend a little bit of time looking at everybody's profiles, and I quite look forward to the voting, actually. So, yeah, do go and have a look.
Dylan's also a cyber bouncer, so he's part of the cyber bouncer team. Welcome, Dylan. Good luck. So thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to say on that, Louise? Sorry, I cut across you.
No, it's just look at the link and have, you know, the more people that can engage, you know, this is a time when we really can engage as you know, and be a true membership body. And those people in council represent you. So it's a really fantastic time to get involved and get engaged. The other thing is that we're looking for vice presidents as well at the moment. So you'll see that there's going to be a series of promotions from IOSH around that, and I'm on the one tomorrow.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Louise. Obviously, you know far more about the subject than I do. So a couple of things before we hand over to our guest speaker. We've just got a couple more slides before we move on to Peter, who's patiently waiting in the background. So I'll be with you in just a second, Peter, I promise. Couple of things about e-learning, subject very close to my heart. There was one recently on temporary workers, but I would strongly suggest, if you haven't seen the IOSH webinar, IOSH e-learning module on return to work, which I think all of us as members were sent a link to. It may not land for everybody, but I found it extremely useful and something I would have used had I worked for a larger company, which I no longer do. But something really worth having a look at. But certainly pop onto the site and have a look at the e-learning content. There's an awful lot of free stuff out there, which is rather exciting. So just to continue on the news front before we move away, on the 3rd of July this week is the Joint Action Day on I always struggle with this, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. Thank you. And I don't know why it's such a simple word, but so important. There's obviously an important day on Friday. For me, this is also equally personal to my father. Unfortunately, died as a result of it. So I make sure that you do go on that. Have a look at the virtual event, get engaged with it. It's extremely important, and one day I'll learn how to say it properly without stumbling. Joining the presidential team, become VP, Louise, obviously that's something that you've mentioned, which closes on the 20th of July. There's some more publicity material available on that, which is extremely worthwhile having a look at. And finally, on the IOSH news page, something that was announced, and it's actually a link to our next guest, I believe. IOSH have awarded an honorary fellowship to a colleague, Ho Sion Hing. And the reason I've mentioned this, obviously it's quite important. I wasn't aware of what an honorary fellowship was. I had to look it up. And of course, it's the highest accolade that IOSH can award to someone who's served the OSH community. And I actually think that that's quite a nice link, because I'm going to hand over the screen in just a moment to Peter Bennet OBE, who was awarded the OBE in the Queen's Honours. Was it December, Peter? Did I get that right? Was it December last year?
December 2018.
Was it that long ago? Crikey,
Yep.
Time flies. I think we've missed a year, haven't we? That's the problem. But congratulations again anyway on that. So I'll in just a second, I'll just do a quick introduction for Peter, and then we'll move on to our guest speaker. So I'd like to introduce you to Peter, who I'll share screens with in a minute. Peter Bennett is the OBE, is the Managing Director of PASMA, the trade association representing the mobile access tower industry, and Executive Director of the Ladder Association, two of the leading organisations serving the global work at height sector. He sits on a number of national and international standard setting bodies and has played a leading role in developing much of the guidance dedicated to advancing working at height safety. He's a past president of IPAF, the International Powered Access Federation, and current chair of the Access Industry Forum, AIF, the forum for the 11 leading trade bodies involved in working at height in the UK. And he was instrumental in the creation of the all-party parliamentary group on working at height. He's a founding trustee and a current chairman of the No Falls Foundation, the only charity dedicated to preventing falls from height and supporting people affected by the consequences of a fall. He also chairs the Test and Research Centre, a facility set up and funded by PASMA and the Ladder Association to provide test, certification and research into improving work at height. I'm sure that's a question that OSH professionals will want to ask him about, a subject they want to ask him about. And finally, I have to say, he's someone that I've had the pleasure of knowing for 25 years, working with and sitting on various committees. So Peter, thank you very much. If you'd like to share your screen, I will stop sharing mine, and you should be able to share your screen with the audience.
Thank you, Richard. I'll have to just find it now.
Oh, they always disappear. So again, if you want to, while Peter's looking at his presentation, if you want to ask questions using the chat feature, please feel free. We'll try and channel those to Peter at the end of the session.
Can you see that?
Not
Richard?
Yet. Can anybody else see it? I can't.
Hold on.
Oh, it's just coming up, Peter, just as we're speaking. There we go. You are live now. So I'll hand over to you. Your slide is on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. So, good afternoon. As Richard has said, I'm Peter Bennett. I would like to thank Louise Hosking, Chair of IOSH Chiltern branch, and Richard White for inviting me to speak today, and particularly to Richard for making or keeping all the technology working. Over the next 30-40 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about safe working at height. I lead several organisations, as Richard has said, which are dedicated to keeping people working at height safe. Today's talk is going to cover PASMA, the Ladder Association, Access Industry Forum, and the No Falls Foundation. We will also touch on the work of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Working at Height. The underlying theme of this talk is how we are using technology to keep people working at height safe. Before we start, let's have a quick poll. Where do most falls from height occur? Do they occur from an existing permanent place, such as a roof, an overhead walkway, fixed ladder, or a mezzanine? Do they occur from temporary equipment designed for working at height? For example, a scaffold, a ladder, a mobile elevating work platform, rope access, suspended access? Or from other work at height equipment, from other work equipment not specifically designed for working at height? For example, a desk, a chair, a box, an item of machinery, or another temporary surface not specifically designed for work at height? Or don't you know? Don't know if you've all cast your votes for that, but we'll pick up on that later in the presentation. PASMA, as Richard has said, is the international not-for-profit industry body for the mobile access tower sector. For those of you who don't know, that's what a mobile access tower is, and that's what we're talking about. On the left, there is a one-person tower that can be assembled and dismantled with fall protection measures in place by one person. In the centre, you see a complex structure that's a buttress tower, freestanding and mobile at something like 15 metres, that one. And on the right-hand side, you see a tower being used on a stairway. So it's specifically designed and put together on a staircase. If you use mobile towers, or you manage people who use mobile towers, there's a good chance you will have used our literature. You'll have hired or purchased a tower from one of our members, or you'll have acquired a tower that complies to a standard that we have set. Our strength is in our membership. We represent all aspects of the industry, from manufacturers to users, from trainers to rental companies. Our technical guidance is recognised by health and safety authorities. Our training scheme issued over 75,000 cards last year, and we work internationally promoting the safe use of mobile access towers. There we go. Engagement is fundamental to building a positive, proactive safety culture. In the UK, we have a strong relationship with the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy and the Office for Product Safety and Standards. We sit on the business reference panel and are actively involved in the drafting of PAS 7050, which is a publicly available specification under development now to provide a specification for bringing safe products to the market. We work closely with the UK's Health and Safety Executive. We serve on the National Working Well Together Steering Group, the Small Business Trade Advisory Forum, and the Construction Industry Advisory Network. Our collaboration in writing work at height guidance with regulators and local enforcement bodies extends across the world. Other global government stakeholders we collaborate with include the Ministry of Manpower in Singapore, who hold an annual Working Safely at Height event and invite our local members and us to showcase safe methods of using towers. The Department of Safety and Health in Malaysia, whose inspectors have already undertaken the PASMA Towers for Managers course to increase their knowledge and understanding. The Department of Labour in South Africa and ASHGAL in Qatar, who are scheduled to release their QSC 2020 document shortly, which refers stakeholders to PASMA for tower guidance. We've also worked with OSHAD in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE with Dubai Municipality to produce their code of practice on working at height. I I can hear a noise somewhere. Sounds like a dog, doesn't it? When thinking about access products...
Actually, Richard.
Is it?
But he's now muted, yeah.
When thinking about access products, standards provide a framework for product performance, dimensions, testing criteria, and they define the instructions required for safe operation of products. At PASMA, we are at the leading edge of setting and maintaining standards, and we serve on British and European standards committees, and we not only work with BSI and SEN in the UK, but we also collaborate in the Middle East with ESMA, the Emirati Standardisation and Metrology Authority, and in South Africa, the South African Bureau of Standards. Oops. Engagement with government bodies and regulators is one element of our work, but recognising the industry and the wider industry has a part to play in setting standards and helping to encourage good practice. We also work with like-minded trade association and industry bodies. We have strong relationships with IIRSM, HAE, which is Higher Association Europe, and ROSPA, the Royal Society for Prevention of Accidents. We already have or are negotiating or discussing memoranda of understanding with these other organisations and working towards more robust engagement with the Association for Project Safety, British Safety Council, IOSH, SIOSH, the South African Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, the Singapore Institute of Safety Officers, Petroleum Development Oman, and the Institute for Working at Height in South Africa. Trade associations and industry bodies are a really effective means of communicating with large groups of interested parties. We see this engagement as fundamental in helping us to understand the specific requirements and experiences of a shared group, while also helping us to share information and collaborate on safety campaigns. We chair the British Standards Technical Committee, B51424, and convene the SEN Technical Committee, TC53 Working Group 4, which is responsible for producing the standards for mobile access towers. And has been responsible recently for the revision and update of EN 1004, which is the standard covering mobile access towers. The current standard covers towers from 2.5 metres high to 12 metres internally and 8 metres externally. No one quite knows why it started at 2.5 metres, but it does. The new standard, however, will alter that and will cover towers from ground level upwards, and it will mean that low-level scaffolds will be covered by EN 1004. It will bring change to industry and encourage innovation as new methods for accessing at low levels will need to be considered. We welcome the proposed changes. They will be positive for the access sector, and we will keep the industry informed as the revision continues through to adoption. And as you can see on the screen there, the old standard, the previous EN 1004, is due to be withdrawn next year, 17th of May 2021. We provide guidance and training to verify competence, provide the right platform for employers and users. Mobile access towers are versatile products capable of a wide range of configurations and builds, and we want to make safe tower use as widespread as possible. By adding clarity to this range of tower builds and applications, we can show the capability of using towers. Just make sure I'm on the right screen there. Hold on. That's the one. We've introduced a range of symbols to denote the types of tower structures and the types of training available. You can see a selection of the tower types on the screen. Because there are different competence requirements in building and managing towers, we have also added levels to show the different competence levels. These symbols will provide added clarity around the skill level and competence of people assembling, inspecting, dismantling, using and managing tower use. You can see there's a fair range in there. We have work at height novice, we have low-level towers for users, which is by far the most popular module that we have, towers for managers, cantilever towers for users, towers and stairways, link towers, large lake towers, towers with bridges, and then we have the special one for those who undertake this activity as their normal everyday profession, and that's towers for professional riggers. Look out for these symbols appearing on the PASMA card. Our courses and supporting collateral over the coming year, on our courses and supporting collateral over the coming year as we continue to promote the safe use of mobile access towers. Embracing technology to make safety count has to start with good content. If you've got useful, accurate and trusted content, how can technology help to make people safer? This is a question we continually ask ourselves. We've learned some interesting lessons with the current COVID-19 pandemic that I will come back to. I think I'll only mention COVID-19 twice, so you'll forgive me, please. Let me tell you about some of the quandaries over which we ponder. Firstly, we ask ourselves, do delegates at our training courses get enough hands-on time? It's okay talking about the potential dangers of working at height, but do people really think about it? It's okay us training people how to assemble and dismantle towers safely, but do their bosses know what's good or bad? It's okay us teaching all the good stuff in a training course, but what happens when they leave the training centre and nobody's watching? How do we know they're doing it right? How do we know they're getting that vital part that contributes to competence experience? Then we ask ourselves, wouldn't it be good if delegates had more practical time? Wouldn't it be good if you could experience danger without risk? Wouldn't it be good if managers knew what good looked like? Wouldn't it be good if somebody was watching the day after training? Wouldn't it be really good if you could be sure a tower was built correctly? And wouldn't it be good if you could easily demonstrate your experience? The challenge with embracing technology is to balance the dash to do something, investing valuable time, effort and money just because it's a bright, shiny fad, maybe. And to balance that against the need to be clear about the advantages and benefits that we can gain. We have a strategic objective to invest in new and emerging technology, and we continue to invest in our virtual learning environment, helping our members to deliver training and support delegates. We've already moved our 4 most popular courses online, enabling delegates to complete the theory module in their own time and at their own pace. By embracing this method of learning, our training centres are able to devote more time to practical training. For example, enabling delegates to experience different tower builds under expert supervision. We know that people learn differently. Online learning can be tailored to individual learning styles and speeds. The flexibility of digital means delegates can quickly revisit pages or sections, and that's not always possible in a classroom environment. Technology helps us to find different ways to educate and inform delegates. We now provide access to a tower game as part of the e-learning course joining. The game walks delegates through the types of tower assembly so delegates can appreciate the components and build process to build a safe mobile access tower in a virtual environment before they go out to the real world. There's a lot of research into the benefits of gamification, although from our point of view, it's too early to reach a conclusion on trends. The initial results around delegate engagement and interaction are very positive. Managing work at height brings a different set of challenges. Managers are expected to know what good looks like, but sometimes lack the years of practical experience of building and using equipment employees under their control may be using. We have added virtual reality fault finding to our Towers for Managers module. This adds another dimension to their learning experience and means they get to witness a range of tower faults without leaving the classroom, equipping managers to identify both frequent and occasional risks. Any time in the past, anyone has tried to artificially create faults in towers, either in an effort to ensure that we don't injure someone, the faults are trivial and inconsequential. but if you try to recreate serious and dangerous faults, you create a real risk for delegates who are attending such a course. Here are some of the options available to us. For example, we can have another module. Imagine inviting delegates to appreciate the risks of unprotected edges, falls from height, or experience a tower collapse without physical injury. This is all possible in the virtual world. So we continue to make investment in our pre-joining and classroom learning and providing more time for practical education and supervision. As we mentioned before, so what happens the day after the delegate has been trained? The manager might know what good looks like. The delegate could be trained and competent and know all the right things. But how can both be confident the training was worthwhile? Our duty does not end because someone has received PASMA training and because they've got a PASMA card to wave about. We set high standards of professionalism, and we want to encourage people to work to these standards every day, not just because they're in a training centre. We want everyday normal to be where towers are correctly built, inspected before use, the results of the inspection recorded, re-inspections completed by the due date, and the skills, knowledge and experience of all tower users efficiently recorded. We want managers to have the confidence that their employees and subcontractors have the competence to undertake the job correctly and that they do it correctly. We are moving towards a system of recording tower inspections that will provide a cloud-based service, complete with automatic reminders for inspections. This system will help tower users to demonstrate their experience against individual PASMA cardholders and enable us to collect insights into how, I should have moved that on before now, into how delegates deploy their knowledge. As you can see from this list here, there are benefits for individuals and organisations using towers. The app will help organisations discharge their legal obligations around inspections. It will provide a simple, easy to use system to capture CPD and demonstrate experience. For managers, it will give the confidence that users have the correct competence. It makes the recording and inspection of towers simple and links it directly to users' records. There are benefits for us too. Inspection data will help us to improve our training content, and we can issue safety alerts, micro-learning and information directly to every PASMA cardholder at the time they're using the app. A challenge with investing in technology is there can be resistance from people who are happy with the status quo. It's no coincidence that do nothing is an option in project management. It nearly always takes longer than the anticipated time to implement new technology. PASMA, like you, are not immune to these challenges. And then COVID-19 struck. As you've seen from the previous slides, we've been working on introducing technology and widening our digital strategy for some time. We've actually been working on these projects for some time. In truth, we struggled to gain widespread acceptance until this year. Before lockdown, there was resistance to our plans. We were told delegates will not appreciate attending an online theory module, especially if it's in their own time. Asking people who were not computer literate to use a computer will not work. Online meetings are less attractive than physical meetings. And then lockdown. The lockdown that swept the world, restricting travel and curtailing business as usual meant that we had to move quickly. We've been very lucky because the investment we previously made enabled us to respond fast. There was no option but for everyone to embrace technology or stop working. So what have we learned? The speed of change has increased. With digital, we can respond faster. By making our content available online, delegates can decide how much time to devote to the theory section, and they can learn at their own speed and at a convenient time. And by moving the theory online, Delegates arrive at the centre ready to take the written test and then spend more time hands-on in the practical session. We've also made, or we anticipate making, a significant saving from moving to online meetings. By our estimate, we will save over £70,000 this year. And there are other opportunities from moving to digital. We can reduce printing costs in booklets and marketing material, guidance, certificates, and we can increase our organisational agility and, importantly, reduce our carbon footprint. We recognise that safety practitioners such as you guys are essential in sharing information and upholding good practice on sites. We launched the Safety Practitioner Zone just before the lockdown started. The Zone is a free resource library for occupational safety and health professionals, providing access to a range of collateral from toolbox talks to guides to bite-sized safety videos, all to help share good practice. There is no charge to the individual or the organisation for accessing the library. But to restrict this to safety professionals, we are making access available via safety professional organisations. IRSM members already have access via their website. We are in discussion, which we would like to move a little bit faster, with other safety organisations, including IOSH, about adding this free resource to their qualifying members. Ooh, pressed the wrong button. At the start of this presentation, I mentioned that we're involved in several work at height organisations, all with a common theme of keeping people who need to work at height safe. We estimate there are about 2 million ladders and step ladders in regular use in the UK, making these the most commonly used method for accessing work at height. Look in any house, factory, office or van, and there's a good chance you'll find a ladder or two. The Ladder Association has been helping people use ladders and step ladders safely for over 70 years. Some people have questioned, why do we need an association to promote the safe use of ladders and step ladders? There is a perception that ladders are simple, so simple that people don't need guidance or training to use them. And yet we are regularly asked what the position on the use of ladders and step ladders is. And we are aware that there have been, in the last few years, organisations who have been fined because of accidents involving ladders, where it was demonstrated that the user had received no training in the risks involved. Something you may have heard before from the ladder fraternity, ladders and step ladders are not banned under health and safety law. That comes from HSE Guidance Note INDG 455, and it's something that the HSE are saying on a regular basis. In fact, they can be a sensible and practical option for low risk and short duration tasks, although they should not automatically be your first choice. I think you're probably aware of the fact that short duration is not the deciding factor in establishing whether the use of a ladder is acceptable or not. You should have first considered the risk. As a guide, if your task would require staying up a leaning ladder or step ladder for more than 30 minutes, at a time it is recommended you consider alternative equipment, and that's the Ladder Association's position on it as well. You should only use ladders in situations where they can be used safely. For example, the ladder will be level and stable, and where it is reasonably practicable to do so, where the ladder can be secured. Our message is, make sure you use the right type of ladder and make sure you know how to use it safely. You'll often find industry bodies collaborating with standards bodies and regulators on good practice. Although it's taken a long time to produce, and I would hesitate to tell you how long it's taken to produce, but if I said it was more than 10 years, you maybe get an idea how long it took to get to the revised EN 131. We at Ladder Association were pleased that a range of British and European standards have now been streamlined into EN 131. The welcome changes that have brought clarity around ladder types and testing, the challenge is currently moving all ladders towards adopting the current standard. We continue an awareness campaign around the changes. We receive technical questions at the Ladder Association on a daily basis. And over the last few years, most of the questions have been around the changes to ladder standards. As we already touched on, we are keen to use technology to make our organisations serve industry better and to make our organisations more agile. We've just launched and are still in the review and development portion of creating and launching LARRY. LARRY is the Ladder Association Robotic Intelligence. We're looking at how we can utilise artificial intelligence, and considering the volume of questions we receive on standards, this was the first and obvious place for us to start. Artificial intelligence learns through use and provides trends analysis. As well as the obvious benefit of understanding the questions asked, we gain insight into the type of language used, and this will inform how we communicate in the future. We've shared our expertise and knowledge in ladder standards with Larry and hired him as our ladder bot. Larry has recently started work answering questions from the public. He's still learning, but we are already working on the next phase, adding our complete technical library. Ladders and step ladders, as I've said before, are the most commonly used piece of access equipment and arguably the most abused. We provide a range of safety guidance, we're ready to respond to technical questions, and we continue to improve standards to make ladders and step ladders safer. But accidents still occur. Sadly, safety messages just don't resonate with some people. They think it won't happen to them, or there's no risk because it's just a simple 2-minute job. We were delighted when Jason Anker, MBA's daughter, Abby, agreed to tell her story, seen through the eyes of a loved one rather than the fall survivor. Abby's story is personal, profoundly moving, and reminds people to get trained and work safely for their friends, families, and loved ones. This video is available to watch on the Ladder Association website, and you can see the URL down there, ladderassociation.org.uk, get a grip. But training is about more than how to deploy and use a ladder. Our training starts with understanding when you should, and equally importantly, when you shouldn't use a ladder. In short, the risks that need to be understood before reaching for a ladder. Our course on learning when to use ladders, how to select the right ladder, together with knowledge on handling, storage and inspection, will equip ladder users and managers to use ladders safely. The next area I'd like to talk about briefly is substandard products. Working at height can be dangerous enough without having to be concerned about a product that does not meet standard. Domestic users can be less well informed than workplace users, and they rely on the information provided with the product. There are an estimated 2 million ladders in daily use, as we said before, in the UK, and consumers are purchasing more of them online and generally make the assumption that the product being sold, or that products being sold online are safe, as they're entitled to under the GPSR, General Product Safety Regulations. Based on concerns in 2015, Derbyshire Trading Standards conducted an investigation in 2016 into imported telescopic ladders. This was supported by us in the Ladder Association, and the investigation also followed a request of a coroner's investigation, which followed a fatality, to improve the situation regarding imported ladders. Sorry, in the report, I'll try that again, guys. I've lost my line. The investigation also followed a request of a coroner's investigation following a fatality due to a fall from a telescopic ladder, which we understand actually failed in use. In the report from Derbyshire Trading Standards, They concluded 5 key points to improve the situation regarding imported ladders. Point 3 of this report focused on the lack of UK testing facilities. At the time of the report, there was only one independent testing body in the UK who could provide access to product testing and certification. That barrier to enforcement, as Derbyshire Trading Standards put it, means that authorities and importers are hampered in undertaking their regulatory duties. Importers are reliant on product certification from the manufacturer, which, as the Derbyshire Trading Standards investigation found, was inaccurate, if not fraudulent. The report also recommends to importers that products should be tested on a consignment level to fully ensure that products entering the UK are safe. However, with only one centre in the UK offering a service, it's impossible to see how any importer could do this currently or up until recently. Following on from this, if we look post-Brexit, we are concerned as an industry and as an organisation that products which may not be permitted entry to the EU may end up finding their way into the UK market, and not only to the UK domestic market, but that may also creep into the commercial supply chain. Without adequate and appropriate product screening, we have no way of ensuring that products coming into the UK are safe. After the investigation, it prompted safety guidance around the use of telescopic ladders and around the selection of telescopic ladders. We worked with the HSE, the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, pre-OPSS, Hire Association Europe and ROSPA to produce guidance aimed at the professional user and domestic market. That guidance is still freely available on our website. If you haven't downloaded a copy, you can go to the website and get it now. Our work on telescopic ladders was cited as a contributing factor in the Office for Product Safety and Standards awarding us the inaugural Business of the Year Award 2019. It confirmed our belief that we needed to push for a dedicated access, test and research facility in the UK, and showed the value of collaborating with stakeholders, something we've now extended to our colleagues on the other side of the ocean in the American Ladder Institute. The investigation we part funded proved the urgent need for a dedicated test and research facility. We in the Ladder Association, along with PASMA, have invested substantial amounts, and I mean close to £800,000, to establish an independent, cost-effective, dedicated test and research facility for the work at height sector. Its location near the Port of Felixstowe is ideal for batch testing and imported product surveillance testing, the majority of which come through the Port of Felixstowe. Test and Research Centre earlier this year was asked by and undertook an investigation for Suffolk Trading Standards, who wanted to test on what they considered to be a suspicious batch of multi-hinged ladders. Along with telescopic ladders, multi-hinged ladders are usually imported. The testing and investigation found that both types of ladder, which had been intercepted, failed the critical safety fault testing, despite claiming compliance to N131. The shipment of 266 ladders was prevented from entering the UK market and sent back to where it came from. Access Industry Forum, we mentioned before, represents the 11 leading trade associations and industry bodies involved in work at height. As you can see from the list, the UK work at height organisations are all specialists and expert in their own particular area of expertise, and they cover the entire gamut of work at height methods and equipment. They all have training schemes, some vocational, some additional skills training, and between them they train more than 200,000 operatives every year to work safely at height. They all set high standards for their members, and they take the lead in improving and raising the bar, some internationally and even globally, and they all give advice and guidance to anyone who wants it or who asks for it. It's not just scaffolders who work at height. From fixing your gutter to installing an aerial, or more usually a satellite these days, satellite dish. From cleaning windows to painting a grain silo, new roofs to roof repairs, working at height takes place all day, every day and everywhere. In the APPG report, working at height staying alive, it was estimated over 1 million businesses and 10 million workers carry out work involving some form of working at height every year. That's a lot of people working at height, and if you're working at height, you are to a greater or lesser extent at risk of falling from height. And who's at risk? You. Anybody who works at height is at risk of fall. Oops, wait a minute now. The sad fact is, we probably all know someone who's had a fall. The so-called lucky ones could be left with life-changing injuries, injuries that might prevent or restrict the work that they can undertake. In some sectors, if they are lucky people, they can be given light duties, a place is found for them in the yard, loading trucks or keeping the kit tidy. However, usually a fall from height can jeopardise livelihood and family if you never return to work ever. But let's not forget that falls from height affect families, friends and workmates. I'll cover it later in this presentation. And that's before we even think about the long-term damage to a company's reputation, potential prosecution, and increasingly more substantial fines and even prison. Falls from height continue to be the biggest cause of life-changing injuries and deaths at work. We say at work because we don't know how many people fall from height at home and leisure. The year before last, 40 people left home for work and didn't return home, most of them middle-aged men. That's 27% of workplace fatalities. You maybe have seen, I guess you guys would, if anybody would, that the Ajc Fatality Statistics for 2019-20 were released this morning. We're really pleased that the number of fatalities is down at 111, but we're disappointed that falls from height is still top of the list of causes at 29. Even people who survive a fall can be left with life-changing injuries, unable to work or have an active life. And there's a cost to society, to our healthcare system and to industry. Not to mention the trauma or shock for people who find or may have witnessed a fall. If we take a look back over a longer period, the numbers are staggering. Since 2014, there have been over 200 deaths and over 30,000 incidents where a fall from height has resulted in a non-fatal injury. At the start of the presentation, you were asked to select a response to the question, which is the most common cause of falls from height. Falls from an existing permanent place, falls from temporary equipment designed for working at height, or falls from other work equipment not specifically designed for working at height, or you didn't know. So, the results are in, and according to you, you reckon that 30% are caused from an existing permanent place. You reckon that 22% are from temporary equipment designed for working at height. And the highest number that you've decided upon is 35% from other equipment not specifically designed for working at height. And 3 of you are very honest in saying you don't know. Can I tell you, I don't know. And that really concerns me. It concerns us. HSE, the government, in fact, everybody else does not know the answer to it. The tragedy is that over 200 people have died, over 30,000 are injured, and yet we don't have consistent data on deaths and injuries, what training they've received. We don't have data that can tell us what we need to know. I heard this morning on the radio or on the TV that one of the medical experts who are talking about COVID-19, there I've mentioned it again, were complaining about the fact that they do not get enough data to work with. And they made the point, and a very valid point in my opinion, that data is power. The cost to society is considerable. To the almost 200 people who've died, who've lost a father, a husband, a son, a mother, a wife, a daughter, the cost is incalculable. For the lucky ones, the ones who've survived, the cost is substantial and ongoing. When you consider the effects of a life-changing incident where people who have survived are then confined to a wheelchair, need lifelong care, either cannot work or have to work in a different capacity, probably with lower earnings. We could accept that and we could say to ourselves, working at height is dangerous, the attrition rate is what it is, always has been and always will be. Or we could say, that's not on, we're going to do something about it. Sorry, let me second. Don't misunderstand me, please. We in the UK have an enviable record on safe working, with some of the lowest accident and fatality rates of any developed country. And we are considered as being at the forefront of safe working at height. But when you consider that more than 200 people have lost their lives to a fall from height over the last 6 years, and that falls and falling objects from height are still one of the major causes of life-changing injuries and fatalities, the formation of an all-party parliamentary group to look into the issues is overdue and is to be applauded. The APPG was firstly established with the support of PASMA, who recognised it as a worthwhile, sensible and essential thing to do if we wanted to make a difference to the death and injury toll in the work at height arena, to invest in reaching out, communicating and persuading no civil servants, but politicians, those who make the policies and set the priorities that the civil servants implement. They also appreciated, after some persuasion, this is the PASMA Council by the way, that it needed to exist and be real to get buy-in from other stakeholders. They agreed to underwrite funding to establish the APPG, to get it to a position where we could present it to the broader work at height sector and persuade them that this is not just an issue for towers, but for everyone who works at height. I'm pleased to say that the APPG is now supported by the AIF, the whole work at height sector shaping policy in our industry, and the APPG is chaired by Alison Thewlis MP and set out to understand what could be done to prevent serious injuries and fatalities while working at height. Their report, Staying Alive, was published in February and was welcomed by all sectors of the work at height industry. I'll talk to you a little bit about the content shortly because I'm mindful of the fact that I might be running a bit past time. How are we doing for time, Richard? Do I need to speed it up?
We're fine, just a few more minutes. Obviously, we'd like to be able to leave a little bit of time for Q&As because we have a few queuing up in the chat box. That would be great. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay, as Alison said in the report launch, or at the report launch, our inquiry and report marks the beginning of the APPG's work. Working with industry and government, we hope to make recommendations that will create a safer environment for the millions who work at height every day. The report makes 4 recommendations. You can read them on the screen there. Remember the question it asked. Making adjustments to RIDDOR to enable the introduction of enhanced reporting is something that we are asking the HSE to implement. It does not place and it will not place an additional burden on industry, but the APPG recommends that this enhanced reporting should ask additional questions that we can then analyse and it can be used to contribute to accident reduction. The other thing that the second recommendation of the report was that an independent body should be appointed to enable confidential, enhanced and digital reporting of all near misses and accidents that do not qualify for the reporting. I'm sure all you guys would be very much of the opinion that one of the best ways to reduce injuries and fatalities is to deal with it before it becomes an accident and to deal with it when it's a near miss. Third one is the extension of the Working Well Together, Working Well at Height safety campaign in collaboration with HSE to sectors outside of construction, which is where it's currently, which it currently focuses on. Next one then is to extend the Scottish fatal accident inquiry process to extend it to the whole of the UK. In Scotland, fatal accident inquiries are mandatory if a death occurs in custody or at work. These inquiries provide legal certainty to bereaved relatives that the death will be officially investigated. The process does not look to establish civil or criminal liability. Instead, it focuses on discovering the facts, ensuring witnesses can give honest evidence with no concern it will be used against them in other proceedings. As a vehicle for exposing systematic failings and unsafe working practices, fail accident inquiries have been instrumental in driving up safety standards across a wide range of working environments. The APPG felt it worthy of making a further two areas worthy of further examination. The first one is to create a digital technology strategy to help small businesses and sole traders to invest in new technology. And that, I have to say, has been the driver for our digital engagement, for everything that we've been doing in respect of digital, which can make a step change in how we deal with work at height safety. The last area that it considers to be worthy of further examination is a review of the work at height culture. A major review, including the possibility of introducing legally binding financial penalties in health and safety, funds which could be used towards raising awareness and training, particularly in hard to reach areas or hard to reach sectors. And that really is intended as a if all else fails. The APPG meets regularly. We also have moved towards to virtual meetings. Our last APPG meeting was virtual, and our next APPG meeting will also be virtual, and that will be, so I can see something flashing at me, but I can't quite work out what it is. That will be in September, and that will be focusing on working at height in agriculture. If anyone's interested in attending that, please do contact me and we'll arrange for you to get an invitation. Takes us on to almost the end. I want to introduce you to the No Falls Foundation. It is the one and only charity dedicated to raising awareness of the life-changing consequences of a fall and falling objects from height. You can see in that picture there our three ambassadors, Paul Blanchard, Dylan Skellhorn and Jason Anker MBE. The establishment of a charity, the No Falls Foundation, has three primary objectives in raising awareness of the life-changing consequences and fatalities following a fall from height. First one is to inform, educate and promote safe working at height. The second is to research the causes of falls and falling objects from height. And the third is to support those individuals who have been affected by a fall from height. So finally, please help us in our mission to reduce falls from height. There are many ways you can help us. You can share your story if you know of someone who's been affected by a fall or is a survivor of a fall, or you know anybody in your family who survived a fall or been affected by a fall from height. Send us your story. The more we learn and know about falls from height and their consequences, the more we can do to help stop them. Secondly, you can sign up to our newsletter. Make a difference today by signing up to the No Falls Foundation newsletter and help us make falls and falling objects a thing of the past. The last way that you can help us is we are working on details and we will be launching soon a No Falls Charter. That will be a tangible way for organisations, individuals and all stakeholders who are involved in working at height to show their commitment to our No Falls mission. I would like to thank you very much indeed for listening to me.